Blah, 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 Mr. Freeman.
Oh, there we go. I had myself muted. Lol. Are you just restarting Beacon Mix, I guess?
Something. For you.
Oh, it's good that they...
Yay!
All right, you should be able to hear me. So can we hear everybody, everybody? How about now? Loud?
I mean, so me and Eric,
maybe we
me
hear
and Soft,
everybody, just I don't hear everybody.
The stream can hear me and Soth.
There we go. You can hear everybody, and I, in my little headphones, can't hear McLeod and Soth anymore. This is awesome.
Yeah. Now it's great. Yay! Woohoo! You see, this is what happens when you go and play golf, Eric.
All right,
things
so McLeod and
explode and
Soth,
don't work.
I'll let you talk while I figure out why I can't hear you.
You're figuring out why you can't hear you? Okay.
I mean, I thought you could hear everybody, Eric, but I don't know. Like, no. No. Like, Eric, I'm listening to the stream, and I can hear myself. So that means they can hear Soth, they can hear me. As long as they can hear you, then we're good.
Oh, he's definitely not muted in Discord.
The thing is that I figured out. The thing is, Eric can't hear us. And just so you guys know, no, we did not buy those walkie-talkies that the people in the Lebanon did. So we haven't. Ours is still intact. They haven't blown up. I'm just Eric, come back to us, Jesus Christ.
Okay, I know you should hear me. I was just trying to adjust so I could hear you in my headphones.
So you can hear us now.
I can hear you now, and it looked like the problem was with Beacon Mix on my side.
Okay, right. Everything's coming through now, fine and perfectly fine now. So, we can all hear each other, and everybody on the stream can hear us. That's good.
Well, that's not exactly true. If I were to show you what Beacon Mix Create's doing right now, you would be like, "What the hell?" So I hear you, and occasionally your half sound, and occasionally your max sound. And if you were to look at in the personal mix side of Beacon Mix, sending it to my earphones, you would see the little slider going like this. And it's a new version of Beacon Mix. It patched, so I'm just going to leave it the way it is because I can kind of hear you.
Anybody who's a budding streamer out there, right? If it's the day that you're streaming, if you're one of those people who only streams a few times a week, right? If it's the day that you're streaming, don't patch anything. Patch things the day when you're not streaming, so if it does fuck up and you can go through things, you can kind of have the time to sort it out.
Go save,
fucking
saw
hell.
it deleted. That's funny. Sorry, guys. It's a shit show. Thank you. We're not pros.
I mean, to be fair, we've had many times where we've had like worse technical issues. So
to be
there is that.
fair,
What is truly amazing about this one is the fact that I could figure it out on my own, and I didn't need to hit up McLeod on the back end typing. That's the most important thing. And by the way, as you know, I just rolled out of bed basically. Well, didn't really. I've been busy all morning, but I didn't even get a shower, comb my hair, and my hair looks this good. I'm fucking amazed. I'm amazed because I haven't even looked in the mirror today. I'm like, look, all right, on with the fucking show before people get bored.
I need to check the indexing of the time. We're like, okay, so I'm gonna have to work that one out on the when the show gets pushed to YouTube, right?
Whatever we need to do,
Always there, just like going, oh, by the way, the show starts at this particular point in time. So
it is.
But I need to, just mental note, like, technical difficulties at start. Just make sure that we're gonna get to this sort of point straight away, right? But you guys are here, and we're glad that you guys stuck around.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've got. We can dive into fucking like EVE Online if you want.
Let's do that because
there's been a lot of people kind of reeing all over Reddit.
Reeing.
Yeah.
Oh my god! I love when we have the reeing.
There seems to have been some angry people out there.
Why did Hilmar open his mouth again? Oh, sorry.
oh, look who it is.
Who? What?
The dirt.
Oh, oh my holy shit!
Don't
you owe me $50, McLeod. Dirk showed up.
I was going to say. No.
To betting on me.
First bring us on a Mac in Iceland.
Okay, that sounds fair.
Oh, are we going to Iceland?
That might cost him more than $50, but
Yeah.
But by the way, so I was looking up flights to Iceland and all this shit and the hotels and everything for FanFest, right? And so my wife is like, she's looking at my computer. She's like, hey, what are you doing searching this Iceland stuff? You didn't tell me about it. And I said, oh, well, might go to Iceland. She goes, do you think you wanted to tell me about it? I'm like, it's in fucking May. I haven't told you about it yet. Okay? But, if you don't want to go, I'll just take my girlfriend. And she just looks at me and she goes like, there's no other woman who would put up with your crap. So stop lying to me. It was funny. I liked it.
Some good shit.
So yeah. So just update on the golf. Anybody who understands match play in Ryder Cup, if you're an individual and you get 10.5 points, you played pretty good. Okay? Which I did. But my team sucked. Sucked. And we lost hugely. And it's the first time I've ever gone there in 12 years and lost. Terrible.
Well, you played very well and you were quite drunk.
Oh, I was only... No. So Eric doesn't drink until the last night, Saturday night. But
okay.
So I'm golfing with four guys, right?
You're golfing sober.
So I'm golfing with four guys in the last round, which is 1v1, 3 points on the line, right? And
were they drunk?
They were drinking a little, but they played golf well drunk. All those, like one guy's like a 2 handicap, okay, which is almost a scratch golfer, right? Actually, two guys. Actually, all three of them were almost scratch golfers. I'm the sucky one, okay. So I said, I'm under a lot of peer pressure to drink with them because they're fun guys. They're all friends. And they're like, we know you don't drink. And we're about to tee off. And they're like, okay, Eric, we know you don't drink until Saturday. But is that Saturday while you're golfing or Saturday night? And I said, you all know it's Saturday night because, you They go, but you do understand that if everybody on your team wins every point in this round, you still can't win the tournament. And I said, well, I'm a point away from 10.5. So, I'll make you guys a deal. Once I get my point and kick this guy, once I kick Pavlik's ass and get my point, then I'll start drinking with you, right? So this scratch golfer basically begins on the first 5 holes to put every tee shot in the woods, okay? Which then gives me fun. So he throws it, right? He just throws it. So I get, the first point on the 9 holes, and the cart girl comes around, and her name's Reagan, and this one guy, Ush, he goes, Reagan, shots. So we just drank the whole, and then we just played stupid golf, right? The rest of the round, I got my point, and then I was really, really, really drunk on the last round on the side of a fucking mountain. Okay, you got to understand, we're playing on the side of a mountain. So literally, if you tee off and you stagger forward, you go over a cliff and die. But we have no problem drinking. Right. We're just drinking. Who cares?
I didn't think they made golf courses on sides of mountains.
I'll actually have to see if I have any pictures of some of the holes. But yeah, I mean, they are.
I'm sure there's some pictures of the places.
There's one where
age-old phrase that springs to mind here, though. With
what? Don't drink while sitting on the edge of a cliff. I don't know.
No. There's no fun without a bit of risk.
What was this ancient wisdom, Dirk?
There's no fun without a bit of risk.
No fun without a bit of risk.
There was plenty of drinking in Prague, and Prague is like 80% cliff.
There you go.
I felt like it was 80% cliff, yes. My heels feel very much like they were clear. Well, they're feeling better now, but
you gotta pick your footwear for these trips, Mac. I mean,
yeah, I did fuck up on that. I was like, they're just newer versions of the ones that I already have, and then I was like, they didn't work out as well as I expected it.
No.
Well, when I say newer, they were brand new, basically.
I don't have any pictures of the cliffs this year, but I mean, let's put it this way. There's one par3. You're on the edge of a cliff. Literally, if you walk 3 feet off the tee box, you die. Okay. You hit the ball, and it goes onto a green. And there's the green. Then there's the fringe around the green.
So hang on.
Fringe around the green.
If you hook that or slice that, and it goes way off, and it goes down the cliff, do you still have to play it where it lies?
No, you don't. There is a drop area. Okay,
it could be fucking miles.
But literally this. So picture a mountain coming down, and then there's a little flat area that's just a green, and a foot around the green in the front in an arc is the little fringe, and then there's a stone wall at the top. Don't know how, and then you fall down a couple 100 feet and die. Right. So basically, if you don't put it on the green, you're not going to find the ball on the hill above you, and it just goes down. But I put it on the green every time on that hole. Goat Golf Course. It's pretty close. Pretty close. So I'm gonna see. I'm gonna see if I can just tell people where they could. So yeah, so
is it over that kind of thing? There's literally just graves of people saying here lies somebody who could well have been a PGA championship contender.
Could have been a PGA champion, but they died.
But they had a bit too much to drink.
Yeah, maybe. There is one hole where you got to go, back and forth, down the hole because it's so freaking high. I'm looking. I'm not really seeing any good good pictures that really show off where you can die on this course.
I don't think they like to sort
Oh,
of,
there's
advertise those aspects of the golf course.
You think?
You could die. You could die
Here's
if
the
you play
peril,
this golf course. We play it every year because we're stupid. Well, I mean, it's a golf course by a ski resort, right? So,
Okay.
And by the way, okay.
Do they have a driving range? Does the driving range literally sit like towards the escalator things for the for
the driving range is
people.
The driving range is the flattest, nicest area on the course.
Oh, okay. That's no fun.
See if this picture. No, I click on this picture. It takes me to their Facebook site. That kind of blows.
That's horrible.
Well,
any company that only has a Facebook kind of like
no. I saw a picture
their
that
advertisements is fucking terrible.
No, I saw a picture that I Googled that this is one of the places that you're hitting off the cliff, and it kind of shows it. And I clicked on it to their Facebook site.
We don't fuck with Facebook.
Yeah, I am not a fan of Facebook. The only thing I'd ever do in terms of like using Facebook is maybe sell something or buy something on the marketplace there, potentially, but that's about it. Just fucking. I mean, and the reason why, not using marketplace, but just like not fucking with Facebook is because it's fucking Facebook.
Yeah, I mean, Meta can go fuck themselves.
Facebook is
quite
Facebook.
Frankly,
that is correct.
I had a moment there when I was like, I'm not getting a backup here, and then
he had a moment. It's funny. This one woman has been a bartender there for so long. She's like actually in most of their pictures. Nice. Oh, here's a top-down picture of one of the cliff things where you hit, but you can't tell the elevation. But it's I'd say it's about 300 feet from the tee box down to the fairway.
Where are we looking at?
I see the picture on Facebook, so I can't show it to you because you don't Facebook.
Ah, shit. Yeah, good point. God damn Facebook. And this is one of the other reasons why you don't fucking, why you shouldn't have your company stuff and advertisements and stuff like that on Facebook, is because it's a fucking ball ache.
I'm gonna let's see. Copy image. I'm gonna put it. We have like a public channel, right? I'm putting in our public channel on our Discord. Hopefully everybody. Doink. So this is like from a drone down onto this. So once it uploads, you guys can look. Okay, see this picture? Okay, see how the cart path winds back and forth all the way down. Okay.
Yeah, because otherwise it's fucking it's murder. Like
so we're teeing off at the top there. Okay, you can see those. You see the stone that holds up those little areas, right? So yeah, you go all the way. You don't ski down. You drive down, and then that flat area is where your ball is landing. So my problem is, I got a little better this year. So I used to land my golf ball. You see in that flat area at the bottom by the lake where the sand is. See a little white sand there. I would hit it right in the middle between the cart path and that sand. That's where I would. Okay. So this year, the first 2 times I played it, I hit it so far that if you go halfway between the sand and the tee box there, in that little narrow area, I hit it from those things right through into the shit over there twice.
Oh.
So Eric got a little better, but
still hitting the fairway, I guess, right?
It hit the fairway and then went
through
the fairway. Through the fairway. So but I adjusted. Yeah.
But that's fucking difficult. But that's fucking difficult to do.
Well,
It's like,
I play with people who can do that, but I can't do that. Like on purpose.
well, that's the
On
thing. You
purpose.
need such like finite control, such fine control.
Yeah, but the drop in elevation is somewhere between 250 and 300 feet there.
Jesus.
That's one of them. But the par 3 is really bad. This one, if you fall over, you're going to go down about 10, 15 feet off these tee boxes because it's a little bit of a slope. But yeah, if I can find the par 3 where you will die, I will show you. The par 3 where you will die. Oh,
yeah,
here is
fact, because you put it into there, I can actually put it into Twitch chat. Because at the
cool.
moment, this is a very one-sided. Like people don't understand or can see the fucking thing. There's the actual image because it was in Discord. So.
Yeah. Well, by the way, this is the sideway image. So at the very top there on the right-hand side is where the tee boxes are. You can't really see them, and that's all the way down to the fair.
That is a very nice picture.
Great looking.
It is.
Picture. Jesus Christ.
By the way, this isn't like some amazing course either. I mean, it's just an average course, but it is a little hard.
I feel like somebody was like, I know that this is just a something that somebody wants sort of thing, but like they definitely decided to go all out on taking that photo. Like somebody who was taking that photo was like, you know what, I'm gonna enjoy this for me.
Oh yeah. By the way,
whether I'm getting paid for it or not, like
the sunsets are beautiful. Oh, here it is.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna give the par 3. This is basically taken from one of the tee boxes to the par 3. Okay, and that edge where you see the shit in front of the par 3 is like straight down, and you can't even see the bottom.
For whatever reason, Dirk, the one that you linked just went. This content's no longer available. Like, I don't know why.
Probably because I stripped out the
thing past the question mark, maybe. Or
the extra metadata stuff.
Oh, here's what I got. So the first one I posed the picture of, right? There's actually standing on the tee box, looking down to the fairway.
Yeah, so
that's some insane stuff.
And we have beautiful weather.
That's the thing. Like, golfing in that kind of weather, in that kind of environment, I can totally understand that. That's fucking glorious.
So what you're saying is, if it's cold and rainy, you don't understand why these assholes go out there and golf.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, because it's just fun.
Well, I mean. What's the phrase about golf? Ruins a good walk.
By the way, hold on. Let me look. Where do I have it? Somewhere.
Just spamming chat with like fucking long ass fucking links.
By the way,
for people.
I don't know where I put it, but I must have put it in the library. But I actually do have a Good Walk Spoiled by Arnold Palmer, actually autographed by him.
Nice.
So yeah, that's an interesting book. But yeah. So that's not actual pictures from my trip, but that's some of the shit going on, and we do give 2 trophies. 2 of the guys that started with us. One's name's Bo, one name's Jeff. Our friend Bo. They're MVP trophies to the winning and losing team. So our buddy Bo, who was a trooper. Now remember, we're up in the mountains. Okay.
Yeah.
This is a guy who lost one of his children young. He then developed cancer, beat cancer, but the cancer treatments destroyed his lungs, and then he had to have a double lung transplant. So up in the mountains, at the top of the mountain where we're staying, he had trouble breathing. But when we came down, this is actually at the bottom of the mountain where the thing is, he could play, but he was always playing at a significant disadvantage. So he passed away. So we have an award given to the MVP of the losing team for him, and then we had a buddy who also died, and his name's Jeff. And one year, he was a little bit tipsy, and there is a picture of him in one of the sand traps making a snow angel, essentially, in the sand. So it's called the Sand Angel Award, and that's given to the MVP of the winning team.
Nice.
So we have like plaques, and your name goes on them, and we're enough of jerks that one year the MVP award went to 2 guys, co-MVPs, and in true Snowshoe Cup, I don't know, just maybe history, the type of people we are, how we've known each other for so many years. They took one guy's first name and put it to the other guy's last name, and vice versa for the 2 of them, just to mess with them. And it's forever on the trophy that way.
Oh, God.
You know. So yeah, so we had fun. I missed you all. I really did. And you know, I got a little drunk on the last 18. Didn't fall off a mountain. Much to my wife's dismay, because I'm worth far more dead than alive. But you know, she said, "Oh, you came back. Okay, I'd put up with you for another year." You have to know my wife. That is funny, guys. It is. Yeah, but we had a great time. Can't wait to go back. And we have beautiful weather. And by the way, as you said, we have played in 40-degree weather. We have played in the rain, not in the rain. But this year, it threatened rain and all this stuff. And we had beautiful 70-degree days every day.
Oh, that's great.
We got lucky.
Very lucky.
So, and my little thing. What are we going to talk about on Eve? Or, you know, or do we get the Dawn rule? Because Dawn's here. Dawn's here.
Yeah. I mean, we had to extend the Dawn rule a little bit because Dawn came in a little late. So you know,
we did.
I mean, I don't think that we necessarily extended the Dawn rule intentionally. We just let Erik get rolling on a golf tangent, and at that point, it was all gone. Right? Like, there was nothing we could do at that point. It was gone.
I like hearing from somebody who is passionate about what they enjoy doing, and Erik is passionate about playing golf, and that's cool. You know, that's
actually I'm not. I'm just passionate about being with my friends. So
there we go.
That's really most of it, right?
Okay, fair enough.
And by the way, I was saving our audience from a dark rant, so you're welcome.
I don't even know. I don't even know what's around to rant about this week. So,
I highly doubt that. I highly doubt that, Dirk. You know, considering I pinged you saying, you know, oh no, what was it? I mentioned something along the lines of, you know, that there's stuff to rant. You ended up appearing. I didn't know that there's stuff to rant about because there are people angry out there on the internet.
Oh no! Say it ain't so.
It's very rare that does happen.
Angry on the internet?
It very rarely happens.
My God! Whatever will we do?
Well, we have to rile them up and make them even angrier. This is our mission, Dirk. Should we choose to accept it?
By saying words like, these Equinox changes aren't actually that bad, get a fucking grip.
But by pointing to their you know, the idiocy of why they're ranting about something, and pointing to the fact that, you know, we could use exactly the same kind of sort of points that they always generally tend to when, you know, when something gets nerfed of theirs and we say, oh, that's great. You know, there's always some low secker or some, you know, small gang guy going, oh, you know, fantastic, I get to like shit all over, you know, null seckers and stuff like that. And then when it happens to them, suddenly they, you know, they get all defensive. So it's yeah. But these are the so if you're slightly out on the loop, there was it wasn't a patch as such, but it was basically a dev blog.
It was a tweaking.
Yeah, it was a dev blog, Equinox update, enhanced skyhooks, basically, of essentially how CCP wants to sort of, deploy some additional tweaks and remind people that the change is happening whether you want it or not, because that was the agreed upon, or that was the intent of the system was, you're going to have a grace period, but eventually there's the systems are going to change and you're going to have this stuff. Some of us, like Initiative, have already moved over all of the stuff to the Equinox.
You guys kind of jumped rather than looking where you were jumping a little bit on that front.
It kind of felt like somebody like blindfolded us, spun us around several hundred times, and then went, take a step if you feel like you need to, and Shines went, if you don't, I'll fucking shoot you in the face. And we went, okay, well, I guess we're stepping forward on this one. Into the fucking unknown.
Into the future, Matt. That's where you're stepping.
Into the revolutionary Equinox suite, right?
Yeah, which was oh so great when in its early incarnations.
Oh God. See, this is the thing, and I think I'm not going to be like harsh on the CSM about this, because at the end of the day, everything that's fucked up about the Equinox suite was by the numbers, and the CSM were never really given numbers. And the numbers that they were given, they were basically told, "Oh no, this is just for testing purposes. These aren't the final numbers." And then it dropped, and those were the final numbers.
Whoa.
So, shit happens. The CSM can only do so much, and can only, gives the CCP the feedback based on what they know is going to be dropping. And when they're told that the things that they're concerned about aren't going to be dropping, and then they do drop, I mean, what are you to do?
Yeah, right? It's not as if CCP have ever done that before. No,
not at all.
No, could never have been seen coming.
Yeah.
Did you see the astonishment in my reaction to your comment? Did you see that on the screen? I was like,
oh my God.
I thought you managed some very good faux surprise there, Eric.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I didn't even rehearse it. It was natural.
Yeah, so the thing that people I think are the most annoyed about is the fact that there are going to be rating windows. So there's going to be like a small period of vulnerability instead of basically it being vulnerable all day, every day. And clearly, CCP, who have never, horrendously nerfed and horrifically buffed things to massive extents, decided to go very much in the middle of this sort of thing, and it seems as though people have it in their head that like the vulnerability window is going to be 1 hour in like this in a span of 3 days.
Yeah,
which to me is a bit mentally like it's a bit mental in that kind of like going from like one extreme to the other. But that's CCP's balance, like. That's the way that's their mentality. It seems like there was a point, right? I'm not crazy here, right? In thinking that there was a period where CCP were doing balance in the way that other game like companies do balance, in the sense of like small iterative changes, but fairly often to get things into the right place.
Yeah.
That's never happened.
And then they. I'm not saying that they started off like that. Like clearly, there was a long period of time where they did like, huge swings in terms of for balance passes, like in terms of like nerfing things into the ground and buffing things into like absolute necessity, right? But there was a period where they were kind of doing decent sort of balance passes where they were just pulling things up, pushing things down bit by bit, but fairly often. And now they've gone back. Now they've gone back to like basically nerfing the living fuck out of things and buffing things to like crazy levels.
Look, yes, there was a short period where they were doing it. A short period. But yeah, that was kind of something that fell out of the norm. Otherwise, we're used to CCP dropping new mechanics and then they just forget about them for a year.
A year? If we were lucky, they only forgot about them for a year.
Is it that they just love the love-hate relationship? Like, you know, if we're not like praising them or hating them, like they feel like they're unloved in some way, shape, or form, or they feel like they're not getting the attention that they need.
Something. All publicity is good publicity.
Well, they made Posh Friend, ignored it for a year, and then they tried to mess with it, and they just fucked it up. And so, like, fine, we're putting it back, and we're never touching this again.
Well, there's also a change to Pochfin as well.
That's what I just said.
Pochfin or Pochfin, yeah.
Oh, for the mobile observatory things?
Mm-hmm.
You can blow those up. It doesn't matter.
You can blow those up, but if you're trying to be like all stealthy and shit, then, you know, to blow something up, you have to be unstealthy. You know.
Most systems have a station in it. It's fine. It's not going to change anything.
I'm just saying, if somebody's trying to be stealthy, or somebody's deciding that, like, I'll just park myself over here and, you know, cloak up for, you know, a few hours while I go and do some random thing, then they may not realize that somebody has dropped a fucking observatory down.
If you leave your ship unattended for hours to be able to be caught like that, you might deserve it.
Yeah. I feel the same. I feel the same way, Dawn. Like, what I'm saying is, like, you know, if somebody's trying to be stealthy, you know, or it's trying to be stealthy but trying to be actively stealthy, then yeah, you know, they can, I guess, technically go and blow up that observatory if somebody drops it and then just thinks that, like, it's not going to be shot at. But yeah, if somebody's just going to AFK, then yeah, fuck him. Fuck him. And this goes back to, like, I don't know if you've ever seen the huge threadnoughts on the old Evo forums about, you know, Loki camping. But, like, my God, those fucking people had opinions about that sort of stuff. Whether you should, you know, be able to cloaky camp systems for, you know, like hours, potentially the entire day from downtime to downtime, that sort of thing. Yeah.
Well, there's a huge difference between wormhole space where nobody ain't gonna see shit anyway, so you just assume there's somebody there, versus nullsec where you can see them, and the existential threat that they have just ruins people's game time. Like, there's a huge difference in mentality.
Yeah, because very much along the lines of, and this is what a lot of people who live in wormholes or live in Pochfin don't, like, really get, is the existential threat that somebody just in a recon ship versus somebody who, you know, is in a recon, like, if somebody's in a recon ship in nullsec, they are a massive existential threat, because of what they can bring in at a moment's notice. If they have a group that's close enough, and, you know, in nullsec there are many areas that are close enough to a massive amount of either NPC nullsec or lowsec that, you know, can bring in an absolute fuck ton of people, and not just like fuck ton of people, but like some seriously heavy hitting stuff that, you know, can persevere and persist, versus, you know, in wormhole space where the worst thing that can happen is a bunch of battleships come in, right? And I don't want to minimize, you know, like what some very blingy battleships can do, but, you know, if you put a very blingy battleship against a very blingy, you know, supercarrier, you know what's happening there. Like, the fucking battleship is dead.
There's a cost difference as well.
The cost difference is big as well, yeah. But, like, that's the thing that a lot of people in the, you know, wormhole sort of scene and in the Pokémon scene will want to minimize is like, but it's just a guy, it's just one guy, like, but it's never just one guy, right?
Guy and the 100 friends he's gonna bring along the way.
Yeah, and it always, and those conversations, those threadnoughts always revolved around this conversation of, oh, it's only one guy, oh, he's no threat if he's AFK, like, but it's like it's not that he's always it's never, the issue has never been, from the person because he's AFK. It's always because you have to be alert all the fucking time, and that guy can be AFK for, an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, but like the moment he comes back and he decides to actually do something, then he's a threat. But you don't know. You don't know when that moment is going to be. So you have to be alert all the fucking time. And I had to deal with this with when I am space and all of the Confederation of Pizza Dudes when I lived down in Delve, and we had to sort of deal with their random Black Ops like drops out of nowhere, like literally out of nowhere. We had to literally place like people in all the NPC systems in Delve to basically keep an eye for, basically just sudden spikes in the amount of people there, when they obviously had pinged their group that they found a target and they were going to drop on it.
The amount of people who are like, ooh, just bubble camp all the stations. Bitch, they're like 13.
Dude, that's what I used to do. Like, I mean, that's I used to have an alt that was there that literally would, when that occurred, when that sudden spike of people in that NPC station suddenly occurred, that I knew were jumping into Black Ops battleships and about to undock to jump to their silo. The first thing that I would do was, undock from that station, drop a bubble, and then burn out to a ping. To burn out to a ping spot on that station, and then just like cloak up and wait for the either the bubble to blow up, and to basically walk back into that same spot and drop another bubble, or for them to basically get disheartened and basically dock up, and then log off. Like, that was literally the only defense against it.
So what else was in there?
And Lorne were fucking. Lorne were hounded and harassed by pizza back in the day.
Were there any other changes besides the sky hooks? Which, well, so all of us in LSEC were looking around like, wait, this is good for.
There's some stuff that affect you to some degree, but then again, you don't manufacture as you mentioned you mentioned quite often. In the previous show, that like you don't know too much about manufacturing.
Yeah, Dawn doesn't know how to build shit
and stuff. It's just about the extraction for you, isn't it, Dawn?
Dawn only knows how to destroy, not how to make. And by destroying, I mean rocks.
There were capital ship crafting buffs, and there were T1 battleship crafting buffs that are also in this patch.
I can comment on one thing as related to industry-ish. So, more and more Metanoxes have been going up, and the moon prices are crashing. Ice is more expensive than moon goo.
How is that?
Because everyone's got all these passive hooks going up.
Wait, hang on, Dawn. You said that like that's bad. Is that bad for ice or is that bad for moon goo?
Bad for moon goo.
So ice is more expensive than moon goo.
What Dawn means is that
basically
the way that income sources are bad for her pocketbook.
I'm trying to figure out, like, Dawn, are you because the what you said was that ice products are, or in general ice is more expensive than moon goo. So is that because moon goo has dropped in price?
Yes.
Or is that because it's dropped in price? Moon goo has dropped in price, and that's because of all of these, because of all of these Metanox moon drills.
Yeah, so the relative price, and I don't know, but if you look on Celestis, usually the top moon goo would hang around 900 to 1,000 per refined value, whatever it was, right? 1,000. And then some of the lower ones would be maybe 700, 500, somewhere in there. Now the top one's like 700. And ice, and the most expensive ice is at 900, and the second most expensive is at 700. So, like, for the same, value, refined, whatever, not that, however they.
Yeah. But the big difference is you can't drop a Equinox moon drill on an ice belt to mine the ice.
What I'm saying is that CCP didn't think this through. They were like, oh, okay, so we'll have the Metanox moons. We'll just go back to passive moon mining, right? But they changed all the moons years ago and all their compositions. So now there's just a lot more moon goo available. And even at 40% of what you could get from fracking it, people are putting more metanoxes on shit that they didn't drill ever. So now there's just a crap ton of moon goo.
Yeah, and this is a bad thing. Why, Dawn?
Yeah.
Because then it's not valuable to mine it with people.
So here we go. Dawn is here again, like I just said. Dawn is here complaining about the fact that people are putting up these passive income sources that will need defending and have a more similar mechanic to the old pause strunt reinforcement timer kind of mechanics. They can be hit at any point and to some degree, but CCP are trying to find a good balance of reinforcement timer to content generation with the reinforcement mechanics on the new Metanox moon drills, and the fact that there is more moon goo in the markets to then satisfy some of the additional build requirements that CCP have been throwing here, there, and everywhere at ships for the last 2 years. I don't see a downside to that beyond the fact that the money isn't going into Dawn's pocketbook anymore, right? Like,
I'm just Dawn. I just want to, very much sort of reinforce Dirk's point here. Is do you really want to say to CCP? Sorry, there's too much stuff. We need more, scarcity here. Like, is this what you're trying to say?
They didn't think about, oh, hey, we probably tripled or quadrupled the amount of moons that provide moon goo, because not all moons originally provided moon goo. Some provided just ore, right? So then they added so much moon goo availability that if you metanox everything, you're going to make more money overall than if you fracked it, and that reduces the amount of player opportunities.
Yeah, so Dawn, we're not really looking at this over the span of time here, are we? Because historically, all moons gave us was moon goo, and we would mine them with pauses. And if you wanted to have some fun with your neighbors who may not be quite blue to you, you would go and you would reinforce a pause that had a nice amount of goo coming in. One of their R32s maybe, or even an R16, and you would generate a timer for that pause. And if your opponents didn't turn up to defend their timer, then you killed the pause, and then you drop one of your own, and you'd make some money back off the fact that you were trying to poke around, trying to generate some content. And then came the fracking mechanics that came along with pure Citadel mechanics, which required that not only when you put up a new structure on that moon, you had to hold it for, what was it, two weeks for a frack to start off with when they first brought that in? The minimum time for a frack was something like 2 weeks. So you couldn't get any money back from your new thing until 2 weeks down the line. You had to hold it for those 2 weeks. You weren't getting a quick buck and then getting out again.
Yeah,
so
and you also had to put like
far less incentive at the time.
I have limited time, so I just want to give you my point. My point that I'm concerned with is that alliances are going to see that why put the effort of having the mounted knocks out or regular fracks out there when they can make plenty of money off of Metanox and not allow members to have fun mining moons, having a fleet, group activity, things like that. Just so that way they don't have to deal with defending a mining fleet if people come to try and kill them, or dealing with the hassle of people complaining about taxes. Like, you know what? Fuck you guys. Nobody else gets in. That's what I'm worried will happen.
We were mining in fleets long before fracking became a thing, and we will be mining in fleets long after fracking goes away, no doubt.
Yeah,
like I think I appreciate the whoa, Mac. Let me just get this out here, because I do appreciate Dawn's concern, right? Dawn likes to mine. Dawn has a lot of time and energy spent organizing that kind of thing.
Yeah, she's the mining director for a reason.
It's a fair concern that she wants to make sure that people have opportunities to be able to get out and just chill and chat and, you know, have a good time together.
All the other belts have been fucking destroyed. What the fuck else are we gonna mine?
Well, I mean, that's what I was going to say. Is like, you know, it's not like moon mining is literally the one and only thing that you can do as a fleet of, you know, of ships to mine. Like, you do still have the like some of the other belts, even though, you know, some of them are like pretty fucking tiny.
What other belts, Mac?
I wasn't specifically saying like I wasn't like, you know, mentioning the belts like they are huge, massive belts that you can have like a massive, huge amount of time. Like, but those belts that like respawn fairly fucking quickly. Yeah, you can probably go through a lot of them fairly fucking fast. But like, all I was trying to point out was, you know, moon mining isn't the only group mining activity that you can actually do in the game. Like, there are other mining areas that you can go, and of course there are also, you know, the large ice kind of belts as well that you can do the same sort of thing. And it's quite high in price as well, as you have literally just said. So you will be able to make a decent amount of money out of it as well.
Tell me what mining field in the game can support at once for over an hour. Tell me and we can talk. Oh wait, there is none. Moon fracks are the only ones that have that much M3 to allow for a nice large fleet.
Dawn, if I'm not mistaken, you used Goonswarm used to do locust fleets. So you know, before it was a case of like, oh, I could sit on this, you know, this fracked moon and, you know, with a group of friends for an hour or whatever, or at this, you know, very recently, right? You know, sit on a fracked moon and like, you know, mine for an hour or whatever, right? Fair enough. But previous to that, it was a case of, oh, I would, you know, leapfrog from moon to moon to moon to moon to moon for 7, 8, 9, 10 hours, you know,
450
doing the same sort of thing.
But yeah, but there's no belt other than moonfracks that can support that. Ice belts are gone in under an hour, and it only takes a couple oracles to do it. And they respawn after 6 hours. So if you did it, you're not going to get another one in your time zone, right? And then half the game doesn't even have regular belts, and they're taking out all the colossals and shit for these new sites, which once again take less than an hour to mine.
There's a function here as well, Dawn, that I think you are perhaps catastrophizing a little bit about the fact that I think Dawn here is catastrophizing a little bit about the impact of these Metanoxers in terms of the number of them that are going up compared to the number of them that are being run by actual fracking functions, not least because these Metanox moon drills require the new reagents from the skyhooks that are being changed a little bit up now in the next couple days. But there's that bit of, there is always going to be a space for people to have their own moons, for corporations to have moons generally within our situation in Goonswarm. There's never going to be a point at which all of the moons go back to the Alliance at this point, because it just doesn't make sense. The Alliance makes more money off letting people mine it and letting people produce things from the products of their mining than it does from towering everything and going, everything goes back to the central pocket. Because you have to then figure out getting that goo back onto the market, and then that goo getting into producers' pockets. Yes, there will always be some, especially with passive income sources of moon goo, there will always be some that are nationalized for the good of the Alliance wallet.
Yeah.
But the Alliance will always make money off the various build taxes, the various market taxes that come from the stuff that is built. It's one of those bits where there is a balance that was crushed by the removal of old passive mining. There was also a balance in terms of the combat and content generation that I was talking about just a little while ago, where in the old system, under pauses, you could do a pause hit in under 24 hours in some cases, and that was instant content, basically, on a very quick turnaround time, to then have a fight over it, perhaps, or make a quick buck, and then what the owners of the old pause would come in and clear you out again, and you would keep going backwards and forwards on that. It was an actually really good, quick driver of PvP content that you could rely upon having a fight over that would have immediate consequences, which is something that has been significantly missing from EVE, and especially EVE Nullsec, over the last few years. There's not been a huge amount of quick turnaround content drivers where you can plan for it, but also have to react very quickly.
Yeah. Yeah.
It simply doesn't exist under Citadel mechanics. So I'm actually quite happy to see this kind of switch.
All I wanted to say was, like, maybe like in CCB's head, they're looking at reducing the scale of the fields to sort of suit more smaller groups, or just so that there's more like smaller sites, but more sites for smaller groups, and then larger groups can basically just just create more kind of smaller groups around their space and micromanage those small groups as like a large amount of small groups rather than a large, like a singular large group. Anyway, Dawn, do you have anything to finish with before you have to go?
I hope everyone has a great weekend. Hopefully my internet is back when I get back to my house. And I will see y'all next week.
Okay. Well, have a good meeting, as it were.
Yep. Bye.
Bye. And I was about to say to Bard,
hello.
You know, you may not have a problem with the old Skyhook setup, but I do have an issue with you speaking in chat and not being on the show. And then I just noticed that you're in chat.
Yeah.
I'll say, hey, Bard.
I sent that and I was just...
Why am I doing this? Like, why can't I just be in the show and talk? There we go.
This is actually the first time I've made it in weeks.
I know.
There is finally some semblance of stability.
Yay.
Nearly didn't make it.
It's alright. It's the first time I've made it in weeks as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's a special show.
I mean, right. Do you want me to actually elaborate on my semi-troll comment in chat?
No. I want you to sit there in silence, Bud. Of course. Go for it.
No. First, we want to hear about the Macarial.
Yeah, I'm going to post it. I knew you were going to... I feel really bad because I know it's now a year. Do you want anything else in there with it off?
No.
Okay, because I do feel bad. And I feel I need to make it
he doesn't want anything extra in there because then it might take him another year to get it.
Fair. That is fair. Oh God. Oh dear.
If you could rig it so that when it opens, it like fires glitter over everywhere, that would be fantastic.
That would be cool. Oh no! What was I going to say?
Sauce like if you dare.
I think I'd be dead at the next meet if I ever make it to one. Because, god damn it!
Yeah.
You better make it to one. We plan enough of them.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to do FanFest personally.
Well, that's fair because FanFest is expensive.
It's expensive and
Iceland is notably expensive.
Yes, but the one after
we'll
that
plan a meet in
is.
Southwest, and if you can't come, then we'll literally march to your house.
I want to point out the
out.
one after that, which I'm not going to say what it is because we don't want random people showing up. Sorry, we like you guys, but we don't like you that much. The one after that is among the cheapest you can get when it comes to vacations. So
this the only thing to note is it's further than the last one was.
Yes.
Yeah, but that I don't think it changes anything about plane tickets.
You're forgetting something.
No, it doesn't. It just
you don't like.
It's just that Bart doesn't like to get on planes.
I do
know
want
what,
to point
Bart?
out that there's a good train connection to that city.
That doesn't shock me. But yeah. I mean, I'm going to try and make it.
For the next one, Bart, we should just get on the same plane, and then you can chill out about at least half of all of the stuff that goes along with getting on a plane.
Yeah, that doesn't help. It's just generally being present on planes. I just fucking hate it. And
he's very. It's one of the few things that he shares with B.A. Baracus. Okay, much like B.A. Baracus, he ain't getting on no plane, bitch.
So we need to put him under. Okay.
Yeah, that'll work. Knock me out and put me in the cargo space. Fine. As long as I'm not conscious for the flight.
I mean, if we put you in the cargo space, you might not be conscious on the other side.
The baggage handlers may have a bit of a question, or be a bit confused, but yoink.
See, just don't fly with an engineer, and it's fine. Okay.
Yeah.
Seriously, never fly with an engineer.
Because they will point out things that make you really quite nervous.
That's the problem, Soph. My qualification was in aerospace engineering.
So you should know how much more safe planes are compared to cars.
Sure. I also know what happens when one goes wrong, and I know the sounds that they make when they go wrong. And I've been on a flight where they've sounded wrong.
Don't fly Boeing and you're fine.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah, I think what you mean is
that's what I
did, Mac.
Boing. Yeah.
I was very much not impressed when we went to Serbia earlier this year. Because I check nowadays. I do check.
Yes, we also went
airlines. To Czech. We did also go to Czechia, but no. When you're booking flights, you take a look at which airlines use which planes and on what routes.
Yeah.
And my route to Serbia from the UK was fly to Schiphol and then go from Schiphol to Belgrade. The flight to Schiphol was supposed to be on an Airbus A320. I get there. Apparently, the airline had changed the plane being used on that route, and it was a 737 400 or something.
Oh no!
So I get on and I'm like, okay, right. It's one of the better 737s. Not gonna lie, but I'm still slightly nervous about being on a Boeing. And then they did the same thing on the way back.
God. Yeah.
So that bit where
I was sitting in an A320, so you know where that plane went.
Well, it didn't go into the ground.
So that bit of when you check for your flight routes and what have you, make sure you double check them and then make a note if it changes, because that's not ideal. When I'm paying extra for my flights as well, depending on which airline you use to get to different places, and then right, this is not the plane I thought it was going to be. As for bits of ad breaks, guys, we do try. But unfortunately, there's not a lot we can do if you're not subbed to the channel. Like, not CCP. I'm so used to CCP making changes that on the show, but Amazon keep pushing more and more ads to Twitch, and it's frustrating.
Yeah, and just to answer Fluffy in chat, unless you're representing somebody, like say a representative from CCP, we don't generally book people for shows. We just hope that you kind of like come on and want to sort of add your personality and add your your interesting insight to the conversation. So Fluffy, if you want to come on, just fucking come on the show. Like, it's totally fine. That's kind of what we expect everybody to do. This is
the only rule, Fluffer, is you can't talk about your drugs.
Yeah.
Fluffer here, for anybody who doesn't have any context on that one, he is a poor soul whose mind has been terrorized by the evil of skill injectors.
Yes.
And we've been trying to get him clean for a couple of years at this point, and it just doesn't seem to stick. It's a really terrible situation.
He was even clean for several months, and then started playing again, and that was it.
Yeah, it really is just so awful to see such great people corrupted by such an evil thing.
I need to point out, please only Google the term fluffer if you are at least 18 years old.
Yes. Oh dear.
Well, now you fucking done it.
Yeah. So, shall I seriously touch the comment that I made in chat anyway? Now, Mac,
you should go ahead and touch
we've tangented as much as we feel like we can for before actually touching the particular comment that you said. But yeah, go for it, dude.
So, I don't want to say this in a horrible way, but
you're going to anyway.
I don't think the change the other day was good.
Which specific change?
You
have to be more specific.
to Sky.
Are we talking about the change that hasn't been implemented yet?
Well, yes.
Well, it hasn't. Yeah, it hasn't
the
been,
announced
it
change.
Yeah. Are you talking about like the surplus bays? Are you talking about the reduced rating windows? Are you talking about the increased amount of reagents? Like, what are you talking about? Like,
I have dropped the announcement
when I said like
the reinforcement windows.
Yeah.
I've dropped the announcement into Twitch chat for anybody who's not quite sure what we're talking about here. CCP announced changes to Skyhooks, the new replacement for customs officers at NullSec. To
and obviously
change reinforcement timers, to change not reinforcement timers, sorry, to change the way in which stealing from Skyhooks works. And they also buffed the amount of reagents that are going to be produced by a Skyhook. So these reagents are required to power a number of the SOV upgrades under the new system. And it is worth noting, before Bard gets into why he thinks it's a bad thing, the key piece of information that was dropped in that dev blog right at the very end is that there is a hard cutoff. There was always going to be a hard cutoff, but some people were there saying CCP haven't announced a date for the hard cutoff, and therefore there's not going to be one. You're going to have forever and a day to change over to the new SOV system. You could stick with the old SOV system for as long as you hold your own space. No, CCP were always going to have a hard cutoff. They've announced the date for that. The date is the 29th of October. 1 month from now, pretty much,
Yeah,
you will be forced into the new system. If you haven't made changes already, get prepped because you've got a month.
Yeah, this isn't a this was never going to be you get to keep the same system so long as you get to as long as you make sure that the old system stuff stays intact. No. Like 29th of October rolls up, you best have changed over the various different kind of things in your space, because otherwise shit's just going to shut down.
You are going to get a very rude awakening.
Yes, but so yeah.
I want to address this first. I don't know where this idea that there wasn't a hard cutoff came from.
It came from people saying that CCP hadn't set a date, and therefore they weren't
I think they were
very specific in the first announcements around the last expansion.
I am not defending the idea. I'm just explaining that some people had this idea.
Yeah, I know. I don't get where it come from, because it was clearly stated that there will be a hard cutoff. And
I think the thing is, like, people read between the lines, right, Bard? And I think the reason why they said that there was going to be a hard cutoff, people thought that like the hard cutoff would be the new system will be implemented, but you won't be able to drop the old structures, or the old structures won't be around for you to drop and use the old system again. So it would be a case of like. I
get this, Mac. This doesn't make sense, because they said we had till the next expansion, and then it would be
changed over.
Sorry, did mine cut out there? Mine's playing up again.
A little bit.
Yeah. They said we had till the next expansion, and then it would automatically change. Anything left standing would change. That was their explicit words, or to the tune of.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, we have customs officers, but we have skyhooks. But like, is it a case of 29th, or when the change happens, the customs officers just like magically change into skyhooks? Like, that's the thing. Like, they're different. Like, they're different objects, right? And they're in different locations when it comes to places in space, right? So
you need to think of them as a separate thing.
Yeah,
is the key.
Yeah, exactly.
And so themselves are what will be forcibly changed.
Yeah.
If you don't do skyhooks in that time, I don't know if they change. That I don't think is clear. But if you don't change them, then you're running Solve without having manpower, reagents, or the other shit.
All your upgrades just drop. Like, basically, all your upgrades drop. all of your connections, jump bridges and that, like, just turn off. All of your,
basically,
all of your. Everything
that's
decent in your space is just basically gets turned off.
The description that you're looking for here is, as of the cutoff, as of the changeover, the hard changeover, if you are not running skyhooks by that point, you are fucking yourself with a rusty pole.
Yeah.
Slightly. Yeah.
And so we come full circle back to, you stated specifically, Bard, that you didn't like the change that they're doing to skyhooks, and now I have to say again, which change, because there are 3 or 4 different
I'm not on about reagents.
You're on about the vulnerability
reinforcement, vulnerability and reinforcement.
Okay, that I can understand entirely, because I think there's a lot of people who have serious issues with that.
I mean, don't get me wrong. As it was prior, it was also overpowered in the opposite direction. But now they've swung so hard this way.
Yeah.
CCP,
super nerfs and massive buffs. Like, this is CCP's
I'm going to say this in the politest way possible, because I'm not in a mad mood with them. I think this is CCP. But I don't think they understand that there is a middle ground that can be achieved.
The thing is, Bard, right? Like, I just don't like vulnerability windows. I don't like the idea of vulnerability.
I don't like them never. Like, they've stifled content, and that's what they're going to do with
content. They've been an aspect of Upwell structures since Upwell structures have kind of been introduced. I don't particularly know why they decided to go down this particular route, as it were. It's look at the issues that we have when it comes to sort of fighting people in different time zones. We kind of had some more nuanced issues. I get that. We kind of had some more nuanced kind of fights and that sort of thing when we didn't have those like particular vulnerability windows. But like nowadays, with like people like time zone tanking wasn't considered to be a massive kind of a big kind of deal like back before op structures, right? Yeah. Now it kind of is, and the thing that I hate about it is you can't do jack shit against it.
Do you want to know what my suggestion would be? This is going to be weird.
Okay.
We still have siphons in the game, do we not?
Yes. They still exist in the game as an item, yeah.
They exist in the database. They don't
do anything.
Function. Yeah.
They don't function, but that's fine because you can repurpose them and bring them back with new functions.
Yeah, you can change.
Put them on skyhooks. You can have your unsecured bay that's your quick raiding bay that you can use the current mechanics and take in however many minutes of being connected to them, right?
Yeah.
And then you can have a siphon. And if you want to hit the secure bay, you have to put a siphon down. And it takes X amount of hours to siphon stuff. But as long as somebody is on the ball watching stuff, they can come along and kill the siphon just as they could a mobile depot or a mobile tractor unit or whatever else, right?
Yeah, and scoop the stuff that's in there.
Yeah. Which also then means you can have a third party come in, kill someone else's siphon and nick the stuff.
Yeah.
And they're not affiliated with either party. Play, counterplay, and counterplay.
You always have to have the option for third parties to come in and do something, right? It adds, additional complexity to the environment, right?
I mean, I know I'm probably wishful thinking. Don't get me wrong, but I think siphons would be the answer.
Siphons would be an easy, siphons would be an easy kind of addition to it that kind of will unfuck some stuff. But like there was also some hobo leaks that kind of, and we don't know. Obviously, we don't know whether this is actually real, whether this is just a part of CCP kind of like throwing some kind of noise into the conversation
Given that
sphere.
CCP
right?
as they are now.
They have done it in the past.
The idea of hobo leaks giving any advanced notice.
Yeah, but they have also added and they have also added like stuff into for hobo leaks to find that was basically just bullshit, right?
Yeah, exactly. CCP hate the idea of players having advance notice. Hobo leaks is one of those methodologies to get advance notice of certain things, and so CCP will credit it nowadays. It's the same reason why they shut down Singularity in one of the worst decisions that they made in terms of testing and getting feedback on their changes. But, if CCP don't want to hear the feedback, then we can't force them to. I will say, I like the siphon idea in terms of the ability to get into the secure bay to a certain extent, and also to provide options for third parties. But I will also say one of the key reasons for these changes that need to be, at least talked about in a very open fashion is that the reason that CCP have introduced time windows to the Skyhook raiding mechanics is so that I think they've possibly done this a little bit. The pendulum has gone too far back the other way a little bit with these changes. Don't get me wrong, but they added the time raiding windows because obviously there are alliances out there who only operate in one time zone, may not be able to react quite so ably to raids on their skyhooks in another time zone that they are not present in. And this does then mean that basically they may not have the level of income of reagents to keep some of those basic SOV situations online. Now, that's a problem for those alliances, because if they don't have enough reagent coming in to balance out even just like the PvE requirements that they have in their SOV space to help keep their members in ISK to then be able to fight for more space or defend more space, defend their space ably and keep it as a smaller group, then
you can
that's
see
a
the
problem,
house cards
right?
falling
Like,
falling down into nothing, right?
It comes from the ground up and slowly weakens the foundations of that alliance until that alliance folds and the members go to one of the blocks, because the blocks can actually afford to do it. And then on top of that, you have the secure and surplus plays, which mean that some part, as CCP have described it in their dev blog, half of all of the reagents that are produced are now protected and then only available to the owner and anybody they put on the access list. Or when the Skyhook blows up, either or. But the idea was for the secure and surplus plays to introduce a stable flow of access to reagent resources such that you have an availability, you always have some level of minimum availability of the reagents that are being generated by that Skyhook in order to fuel your SOV setups.
This makes me think very much like ESS.
When you then combine that, and the fact that they made ESS banks not a player interactable thing, but every system has to have an ESS, that was a bad idea as well. But the water under the bridge. But they then combine both of these changes which are designed to address effectively the same underlying problem, which is that with constant raiding capability and no ability to secure any of your reagents, some smaller groups were feeling the pressure in terms of actually having reagents to run their SOV setups. So 2 changes to address the same underlying problem, and then CCP also increase the amount of reagents that are going to be incoming as of whenever they patch this, probably the coming Tuesday. So we've got more reagents and 2 different situations that are designed to address the fact that groups couldn't have reliable income of reagents against raiders coming in to take their reagents and run the Metanox moon drills that Dawn was just complaining about previously in the show as well. So, like, they swung the pendulum too much by hitting it with 2 changes at the same time to address the same problem. Now, CCP may think that they're addressing 2 different problems with these changes, but they're not.
They're always interconnected.
Like, there's one of those bits where I would have liked to see probably the secure and surplus bays come in as a change first
on their own,
and then and then see what happens. See if this is actually doing enough to address, alongside the extra reagents that are being generated, see if that is enough to ensure that players owning space and active in that space have enough reagent income to run at least a minimum level of PvE availability for their members. And manufacturing capability for their members. And then, if the 24/7 raiding capability of Skyhooks was still feeling a little bit too harsh, then bring in the idea that raiding windows might be an idea that, you know... The other thing as well, I think the way they've got these raiding windows set up currently, we've seen CSM posting about the fact that this is going to be a 1-hour window every 3 days within a set period of, like, however many hours, right? You set a vulnerability window and the raiding window. The last I saw was something suggesting that was the setup.
It's 1 hour a day that changes slightly every 3 days, is my understanding.
Yeah, I think somebody got the wrong end of the stick there. Because I definitely heard something along the lines of only 1 hour every 3 days, which is good. I can understand if you're speed reading something not really taking any care, or just deciding that they want to hear about how this is from somebody who's seriously vexed about the whole thing, then yeah, you could probably have somebody spout out to you about it's only going to be 1 hour every 3 days, but in actual fact it's 1 hour every day, but it does kind of change, and shift around every 3 days. Yeah, there's a little bit
I'm reading CCP Swift's
more nuance
clarification, and that does sound the way it's going to be. You get 1 hour a day, every 3 hours, every 3 days. Sorry, the hour point start point shifts randomly. Okay, yeah, that's fair. That's a bit more reasonable, but I don't think that the raiding windows were quite so necessary at this point in time, as long as you also have that secure bay to keep some of that for yourself. Because it puts more pressure on not just stealing from the Skyhook, which you can do and, be on your merry way after however long it takes, but it puts more pressure on, if you want more from these Skyhooks that you are now trying to steal from, put some skin in the game, reinforce the Skyhook, kill it when it comes out.
I mean, I still maintain my view of siphons, right? Let it take a flat amount that is, say, a third of what is produced and put into the secure bay every hour. So it's not always taking the maximum amount. It can still build up, but if someone is really that ignorant, they will just siphon your secure bay consistently, even once it's filled up. And it might stay there for several days, right?
Yeah.
Slow, I'm constant pressure to siphon. Not something that's going to drain the bay completely. Yeah. It's just going to slowly nick a third of what you produce that goes into your secure bay.
See, I get your interpretation, and I kind of understand definitely your interpretation of CCP Swift's comments, Dirk. There are also some comments from some CSMs that have stated that it is the 1 hour every 3 days kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, at some
point, at some point, this rubber will hit the road, and we'll see exactly what they mean. But I kind of think that the more sensible approach would be an hour every day that changes sort of a little bit every 3 days. Hopefully, it's not 1 hour for 3 days, because that's just fucking far too little.
It's pretty oppressive.
That would be.
But I will
really
say,
impressive.
Having held various space jobs, there was always one adage whenever CCP were looking to make changes, and you're looking to try and plan around CCP's changes in advance, because that's what we do as larger groups of people. And I do know that we have Crazed NZ in Twitch chat saying that they had a small AUTZ based alliance. They were struggling to defend their Skyhooks, and eventually they just turned them off because you weren't necessarily.
It was just. They
weren't necessarily getting
but strangely enough, Dirk, really quickly, strangely enough, the whole kind of Skyhook kind of issue in terms of the amount of vulnerability that always tends to occur, it reminds me very much of the early days of Aegis Solve. When we were calling it Fozzy Solve, when it was just basically the advantage was heavily in the attackers, not the defenders, and it was a case of your stuff was just available to be attacked by anybody and everybody, all day, every day, and that was just too much. Obviously there were some people there who were really loved the fact that they could just go in and they could just harass large groups all day, every day. Out of their time zone, etc., etc., especially outside of their time zone, their typical time zone, which was especially, super difficult for groups, trying to deal with that outside of their time zone. And it became a real fucking, Achilles heel in that kind of sense. And obviously, if you're living in a space, you and this is a game after all. Nobody's, we hear of people no-lifing stuff, but like no-lifing shouldn't be the norm for any game as such, right? If you're around, but for your time zone to enjoy playing this game, then you should be able to, live in a stable environment if you have if you're in a competent group that can kind of hold and keep space, right? Forcing people to have to no-life this game just to basically keep space is just like the most oppressive thing in the entire fucking world. In the entire game space, as it were, right? Nobody wants to do that. Nobody should be forced to do that. So having space taken from you outside of your time zone when you can't actually do anything to kind of prevent that is obviously something that CCP shouldn't be basically shouldn't be incentivizing. So the idea for Skyhook raids to be 24/7, no let up, no nothing, defend it, or your space is just basically slowly erode because you don't have enough enough reagents and stuff to basically deal with your space to actually provide for your for your people. It is just that is in the same kind of way that Aegis was, like the first iteration of Aegis was oppressive, is similarly oppressive. And so like I do kind of feel like there shouldn't be 24/7 vulnerability all the fucking time, but 1 hour out of every 3 days is far too far the other direction. But
like I say,
if I'm going to talk about it in general, I don't like the time zone vulnerability thing anyway. I was always much more. I always thought there was a lot more.
Whoa. Okay, so
there was all. I always thought there was a lot more kind of nuance to the old pos mechanics.
There was, because obviously with the old pos mechanics, even if you only had a couple of people who were playing an EUTZ and had roles, they could jump in a pos and pull certain amounts of stront while it was being reinforced. That was the stront adjustment mechanic was a very awkward thing. It was
awkward.
It was a very awkward thing to do, especially on the fly. You kind of had to know exactly what you were doing, exactly how much stront you needed to pull out for the amount of time that you wanted to give it. And you had to do it within a very limited time window of however long it takes the people bashing your pos to get to 25% shield. And that was a very variable period of time as well, right?
That could happen really fast. It was less than 5 minutes.
Here's a fleet of 5 bombers bashing your pos compared to here's a fleet of 5 dreadnoughts bashing your pos. There was
but the thing with the dreads was
thing.
The thing with dreads was that if it was dreads bashing a pos, you knew that you had 5 minutes because anybody who was sieging a pos with dreads knew that you did that inside of 5 minutes, so you could basically have that 5 minute single dread cycle and then out, right? So you always knew that if it was dreads hitting your pos, get fleets together, get into that area inside of 5 minutes so that you can keep them there. Because if you weren't on that grid inside of 5 minutes, those siege dreads would be coming out of siege and jumping out. So it was a case of that was the nice thing about pauses in that kind of sense. There was also that nice thing, and I know you kind of see it as kind of awkward, but I also saw it as really kind of cool because you could.
It was awkward, but it was great. But this is what I was getting at, right? Because you did have that immediate impact, and it was a variable opportunity as well, right? You could make changes on the fly so that if you didn't want you want to have a fight over your pos in 5 hours because it's a Wednesday and that's when people are gonna you have the most chance of having people online, and the people who are bashing your pos may have the most chance of not being online, you could stront it for 5 hours. If, for example, it was getting bashed on a Thursday night, and you wanted to stront it for Friday a couple of hours earlier, or even you wanted to stront it for Saturday at like lunchtime. That was a stretch on a Thursday evening to get to Saturday lunchtime. But if you maxed the amount of stront in that pos, you could kind of just about push it.
Yeah.
To then be able to have a fight on Saturday at lunchtime, and it would be possible to have that swing if you could do your maths and get it done fast enough. So I thought it was actually I've been convinced ever since we got into Citadel changes and Citadel reinforcement timers that the stront mechanic was hard done by a little bit. In the it was made to go completely away, and so there's not that variability in the moment anymore.
But I like the fact that
I like the fact I've already said today, when with the Metanox timer mechanics, I think CCP are kind of coming back to that a little bit with the passive income and it being a much faster, much quicker way of generating content to go bash those Metanoxes. And I'd actually kind of like to ask Crazed in Twitch chat. I can see that Key Orion is talking about bits of time zone mechanisms and how basically he's talking about how large coalitions have built up over the years, because as you needed more coverage over every period of the day in order to manage different reinforcement timers, of course those groups have reached out to have more North American, European time zone, Russian time zone, and even APAC and New Zealand to cover that 24-hour period. Yes, that's what we've been seeing with coalitions for the last 4 or 5 years. But I would like to ask Crazed if he would have minded the raiding quite so much, if each skyhook that he was running had that secure bay already that would guarantee that there was some level of skyhook and reagent income even with the off time zone raiding. Would that really have worried you quite so much if you'd had a reliable kind of protected ring-fenced source of those reagents? Because I'm convinced that CCP have swung the pendulum too much here. And I'd like to hear it from somebody who was defending against these kind of raids and having issues defending against these kind of raids. I'm hoping Crazed is still around to answer this question at this point.
Well, I mean, I think they've gone too far. Like, if it's 1 hour every 3 days, then that's way too far. I still feel like, 1 hour or like per day is like too much. Like, a 2 to 3 hour vulnerability window every day, I think is completely fine. CCP may be looking at it in terms of like 1 hour and like that sort of that window is going to be different for all of the different Metanox, or not Metanox, all the different sort of skyhooks in your area. So they're all going to be vulnerable in different times and that kind of thing. So
Crazed is saying that if they had ring-fenced reagents, it might not have been a bigger problem as it actually was for them. So one of those bits of at least part of this change as a solid change for smaller groups who only have a single time zone going. And Commander Starscream here just coming around with a baseball bat to beat us. Because, even ship spinning comes with a hazard. Man, we can't ship spin in Citadels anymore. CCP took that from us.
Yeah.
The bastards.
Wait, what? I thought we still could.
Not with certain ones.
In the newly designed hangars, there's no ship spinning. The ones that came in like.
Oh yeah, some of them, like some of the larger ships, you can't ship spin.
I think like you could never ship spin your Titans, and that was a crying fucking shame.
But you could ship spin like other things.
But
you could ship spin like capitals and freighters and stuff, but now you can't with those.
You know what's even worse? They even took away the bug that made you appear as a different ship. Do you know how cool it is to undock and be literally in a station? And then warp around as a station?
Yeah. Although I will say that, like, undocking a super and then finding out that you've undocked into the middle of nowhere and that the station is literally like several tens of AUs away, that's a slightly concerning moment for sure.
Just a little.
Yeah, I don't know whether they fully squashed that bug yet. Like, I haven't heard it happening a little while ago, but like, you know, I was experiencing that in some move ops and stuff like that, which was a little bit on the concerning side. Yeah. I did want to sort of make a little kind of point with regards to the whole stront mechanic kind of thing. Like, one of the things that I really liked about the stront mechanic was the fact that you could kind of there wasn't as much automatic kind of control to it. You know, these mechanics that are POS-like or sort of equivalents with the Metanox kind of stuff is, you know, once you bash that Metanox drill down to whatever is required, it automatically goes to the window, right? It doesn't matter if you're hitting it outside of your time zone to sort of get a better, to get a better result for yourself, like you would do in, in the time when we had pauses as such. That was always a really kind of cool mentality of being able to sort of, not hit something in the time that you basically were strongest, in order to basically, in order for the pause to come out at the time when your enemy is at the strongest, which is basically how people would time people would strong time their pauses to come out when they were at their strongest.
They would try,
but you would have this nice, interesting kind of, or at least sort of this kind of interesting kind of gameplay that would come about, that if you were fighting somebody of a different time zone, right? It wasn't just a case of like, that's their time zone, that's their vulnerability window. If you don't have enough people to sort of to force a situation in that time zone, then you might as well just fucking not bother, because they're always going to basically be there to shut you down. You know, if you were fighting somebody outside of a time zone with pauses, like, you'd basically try and put together a situation where you were coming in late in your time zone or early in their time zone, or late in their time zone and early in your time zone, to basically do something to basically cause a situation where their stuff would come out much earlier or much later than they had planned.
Yeah, 5 or 10 people, like,
which was really kind of cool.
It didn't even necessarily take 5 or 10 people, but 5 or 10 characters in the right ships at the right time of day. Somebody staying up late, or somebody who alarm clocked and got up early because you have an idea that they've over-stronted, and so you're not bashing it for a 24-hour timer. You're bashing it for a 32-hour timer.
But you're bashing it late
somebody
for you. So
somebody with like, 5-10 people who are there at the right time could make a change, make a reinforcement timer that would actually be worth, and you would be able to turn around and say, okay, let's have 50 guys and have a fight over this timer.
Yeah, but it wasn't
under Citadels, like, you can bash it and then you go, oh right, okay, this has come out definitely in a bad time for us, and it's always going to come out definitely in a bad time for us. What the fuck's the point? it's taken some of the it has made it more straightforward.
Interesting nuance. Yeah, it's taken out the
but it has removed
nuance.
a lot of the nuance for sure.
Yeah, because the other kind of thing was, you going outside of your time zone to try and force a situation also meant that you were vulnerable as well, because you didn't have as many people around to potentially to stabilize the situation if it goes south, right? So there was also that vulnerability that is apparent for the attacker who's attacking outside of their time zone, right? But there was also that interesting counterplay of, if you had people around who could re-stront, you could also come in and re-stront a tower, it being hit really late or really early to basically prevent that from happening, right? So there was always this kind of interesting counterplay, and it was always based around actual people doing actual things, and we've lost that, which really sucks. And this is one of the reasons why you have this like roadblock when it comes to one group that's really heavily time zoned in a certain time zone versus another group that's very heavily in a different time zone. Is you can fight all you want, but like it's just going to be basically like it's basically just going to be like blue balls on both sides, because you're going to bash stuff when they're not around, and then they're going to save stuff when you're not around. So it's like, what the fuck is the point? Whereas with the old system, with the POS system, you could do something interesting stuff, and it caused vulnerabilities, which caused interesting fights, which could sometimes escalate into capital fights and super fights.
And again, this is why I think, coming back to the way the Metanox Moondrills are now working, there is some of that ability to get fights quickly. There's also some of that ability to have an incentive to take a fight over a Metanox, then drop your own for, even if you can only manage to get a week's worth of moon goo out of it, or even like 4 or 5 days, if it can pay for itself in that time, you are then in a position where you're paying for fight generation, and it's actually worthwhile to have that backwards and forwards of conflict drivers, rather than this bit of, okay, yeah, I'm going to reinforce the Citadel, and then I'm going to have to wait a day, and then I'm going to have to wait another 3 days, and somewhere in all of this, there's randomized timers that might or might not be like actually viable, so that by the time I've waited 5 days, I may not even be able to kill the thing in the end anyway. Like,
yeah, and Commander Starstream also points out as well, like when it came to POS and POS Stront, like you could also have, the espionage angle of people coming in and messing with, individual POSs with their Stront levels, like, whereas you can't really kind of do that, like with this current sort of vulnerability window, because like it's very fucking obvious and it changes everything, right? And it can only be affected by people who have, very, very particular, very, very particular roles, which aren't really given out like to many people at all.
Yeah.
So there's this level of safety, like over safety, that you have with the vulnerability windows versus the Stront timing. But then there was also the everything was with Stronts and with POSs, everything was a lot more vulnerable, but like it took a lot more time and effort to kind of capitalize on that vulnerability, because it wasn't just something that like, you flick a switch and every single thing is like changed. You had to flick, hundreds of different switches in all different places, and had to actually be there, like in those spaces to do it. So,
yeah, thanks CCP.
Yeah, it's like oversimplification, just oversimplification and just the removal of nuance is just like, it's reduced the opportunities for people to fight. And when CCP decides to go, oh, you guys want more opportunity, they create a system where everything is vulnerable, and there's no
everything is vulnerable all of the time.
Everything's vulnerable all the time, and the level of effort that people need to do to basically capitalize on that vulnerability is much less. And that's what I have kind of issue with.
Yeah, there's. This comes back to the way CCP have always kind of been, I think. It's a really tricky thing to kind of talk about, because obviously CCP, to an extent, they're doing the best they can, but there is always this seeming requirement for CCP to always just flip the table. Right? Yeah, it's always that bit of, right, this one thing isn't working particularly well. We don't like the way it's working. The players don't like the way it's working. So we are either gonna do nothing about it for forever, or we are gonna completely just rip it out and start again. And you're there going, you could have just small tweaks, boys and girls, small tweaks, right?
Yeah.
If you made little tweaks and then gave it a month and actually had, and this circles back to what we were talking about right at the start of the Eve part of the show today, which is that there have been points in Eve's history, that there have been points over the course of the last however many years where we've seen small iterations done step by step and then considered over the course of, a month, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, and then changed a little bit, just a little bit, but enough. And we see it every now and again, and then it goes away for years. And it's a really, really awkward thing to watch as time goes by, because you see this new system and okay, great, this one particular system that you've just introduced might not have been horrendous had you not also then done this other thing and this other thing at the same time, because you needed to flip the table entirely, right? It comes back. I know Caleb and I have gone over and over this again and again over the years on the show. But when you take a look at when CCP introduced the Rorqual changes, and they brought in not just the Rorqual changes, but they brought in the mining drones that were completely insane. Those mining drones should never have existed. Rorquals should never have been able to mine as much as they were able to. And that was one issue. If CCP had flipped the table on Rorquals and introduced the ability for Rorquals to mine that much on its own, that would have been sort of fine, right? A lot of the economy in terms of production would have crashed to an extent, but not in the same way as it did. It would have been okay.
It would, yeah.
But at the same time,
if we were just using Tech 2 mining drones rather than the fucking excavators, then I think it would have been a lot better.
If we'd only been using T2 mining drones instead of excavators, that would have been ideal, right?
Yeah, without all of the additional nerfs that happened after the excavator, after the buff to Rorquals, right? Because we had buff to Rorquals, and then
I'm getting that. I'm getting here because they decided that Rorquals were too strong, and realistically, what CCP should have done is 3 weeks after the patch that introduced the Rorqual changes, they should have ripped the excavators out of the game and reimbursed people for the fact that
They had to figure out something.
They should have just ripped it out. They should have gone, no, that was a bad idea. But that was not the only mistake at the time.
Yeah.
The other mistakes at the time were the introduction of Citadel production facilities, the engineering complexes that had infinite manufacturing capability. You never.
Like
I could feel Caleb is like clapping at you for this.
We fucking
yes.
Caleb and I have agreed on this for years.
Yeah.
The infinite slots combined with the Rorqual's capability to mine in significantly higher amounts than we'd ever seen before with a single character was one of the things that caused both a huge drop in ship prices for a while there. It also brought about one of nullsec's greatest eras of just slugfest destruction.
Yeah, so I was looking back at that actually, and it's insane
I'm not
how
too
much
fucking.
I'm
not too like tilted about what actually came out of it because we were having fights every day. Dreads were being dropped twice, 3 times a week, and nobody gave a shit.
Losses,
we were brawling away.
Like,
nobody cared.
crazy.
It was great. It was hilarious as a player to actually be FCing in that era where you could just get fights no matter what, whenever you wanted, because everybody had money to burn. But then, like, if they just had those 2 changes and, you know, they would have been okay-ish. But then they did the whole skill injector thing at exactly the same time. And all of a sudden, everybody was injecting into Rorquals to fuel the production machine.
I get tilted so much because, like, they nerfed carriers at the same time as well. They nerfed carriers. They introduced like Rorquals, which were like hilariously OP, and then they also introduced the by the way, we're putting these skill injectors and extractor things down, which allows you to sort of extract all the all of the skills that may have been associated with the things that we just nerfed, and you could potentially inject all of the skills that potentially have just been associated with things that we've just buffed.
Yeah, exactly.
If you wanted to, but like that wasn't the intention at all.
And so I don't want to stop you guys, but we have about 60 seconds.
Yeah, I know. They're just going though, just like go woo.
The point I'm getting to here is that CCP have a habit, and it's shown in this comes back to what I've been saying over the course of the show, that they have swung the pendulum too far by hitting changes that are both affecting the same problem that they're trying to tackle. They did it back then in the most egregious example that we can come up with, but they then let it persist at the time for years. And in terms of the Skyhook changes that we're seeing now, these are changes to Skyhooks. Now, Skyhooks have been in the game, 4 or 5 months? Something like that? And they're making changes now. And I would expect that they then won't readdress Skyhooks if this is too far in the other direction until after Christmas, right? Like, CCP have a habit of they make the changes and then they leave it for so long that when they come back to it, people are like, bitch, please, we were telling you about this. Now you finally decided to wake up. We've all fucking moved on.
Yeah.
Like,
we should
Alrighty.
We should probably do very quick one last things, I guess.
Go. Barrios, you're up.
I don't really have one. It just feels weird to be on a show again.
Dirk, can you do it in 10 seconds or less?
No.
Okay, moving on. Zoth?
Eric?
Nope, nothing.
McLeod?
I have one thing real quickly, and it's to do with something that like I mentioned on Reddit at one point. The mechanics for the Equinox sort of stuff. I get annoyed by it because they didn't test it at a decent scale, and if they did test it at a decent scale, they would have realized that the initial mechanics that they were going with may have worked well in a small scale for a small group providing content and stuff, but they don't scale up. And so when they've just done what they've done, which is scale back the vulnerabilities and all that kind of stuff, then to the point where it does work at a large scale, it's doesn't create fun content at a small scale.
All right.
So it's like fundamentally that like set of mechanics don't work for what you want it to do for the system and for the things that you want it to do. So like if they'd have tested it properly at a decent scale, you know, with say on a test server properly with actual people, you know, we're like open to the majority of people to be able to do so, they probably would have realized early on, we probably need to change these mechanics and make it so that it works at multiple scales rather than just one scale, or like at either a small scale or a large scale, but not both. So, you know, that's my fucking problem with it.
All right. Well, one last thing is I want to point out how truly fabulous McLeod's beard looks this week. So, all right, round of applause. Look at that. Fabulous.
Thank you, buddy.
All right, everybody. We'll be back. Same bat channel, same bat time next week. All right. We are out of here. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
We're clear. Woohoo.